Welcome to the Abe Legal Podcast. I'm Talib Kareem, legal director and co-founder. Last podcast, we talked about estate law and tax law and how those basically impact small business owners and nonprofit leaders. Specifically, what issues you might face if you die without leaving behind directives for what happens to your business upon your death. Or if you were in a leadership role of a nonprofit, what is the succession plan that keeps the organization's operations continuing after your departure and demise? So this week, we're going to be kind of doubling down on issues relating to tax law by talking about the difference between an employee and an independent contractor, and what startup businesses in particular have been doing is labeling pretty much many of their workers as independent contractors when in fact they very well may be employees. And we're going to talk about what happens when you mislabel those workers. But before we go into the meat and potatoes of our show for this week, let's talk about some of the things that you can expect in this episode. A few things. One, we're going to be talking to you about, first and foremost, something that's very exciting to many of us who are in the startup community, and that's the hit television series Silicon Valley. Now, of course, it came out in 2015. Many of you all may have seen all the episodes that have been produced heretofore. And so you might be saying, you guys are late to the game. However, this is the first podcast that we know of that goes into the weeds of the legal issues behind some of the scenes. The writers did a great job of weaving in legalese into almost every show. And so this gives us as lawyers an opportunity to kind of demystify that and explain for those people who like the show some of the things that you may have heard or seen that you may not have picked up on. So stay tuned for that. In addition, we have a special tribute for Black History Month. We're going to be focusing on legal legends, African Americans who have made a difference to our nation, who are in the legal field. And so look forward to a tribute to Congressman John Conyers, the first African-American chairman of the powerful House of Representatives Judiciary Committee. So stand by for an exciting episode of the Abe Legal Podcast. But first, maybe you might ask yourself now, well, what is Abe? Good question. Abe is a unique online platform built for startup business owners and nonprofit leaders that provides you with the actual legal manpower to accomplish whatever objective you have for your organization in this upcoming year. So for example, there are other platforms that offer you legal documents. For example, Clerky or even LegalZoom. But what we do is we give you the contact with lawyers who will help you to select the right legal document that you might find on one of these platforms and tailor that document for your exact needs without you paying a boatload of money. So think of us as a gateway for your own in-house legal department in your startup business or nonprofit. So that's what we are. And one of the things that we focus on that distinguishes us from the rest of the other platforms out there is we focus on the quality of our lawyers. And we're delighted to share with you a highlight about one of our lawyers, Kelly Burchell. Kelly has been practicing tax law, has been practicing labor relations law and employment law for well over a decade. And he's built a specialized understanding that is very important for nonprofits and businesses alike on how to actually avoid problems relating to either bargaining relationships between unions and unions and companies, or unions and nonprofit leaders, or issues relating to tax. And he brings to that background a master's or an LLM in taxation. So again, Kelly Burchell is the type of lawyer that you want on your side when you're dealing with any employment issue or any labor relations issue or a tax issue, and you can count on Kelly's services among the other lawyers that are on the Abe platform as our Abe Counsels. So that's what you can look forward to by joining and getting some outstanding help from Abe. Now let's go into the meat and potatoes of our show today. So the law, which is called common law, a platform that, or a legal structure that has established the foundation for many of the laws in all of our states, it provides that an employee is really determined not by where that employee may work, meaning to say if they're working from their home or working from the library or working from your office space, not by how much money they're making, and not by even whether they're skilled or non-skilled. But the linchpin, according to common law, is what they're doing and how they're being managed. Meaning to say that if the worker is being given the assignment by a manager, and the manager is pretty much dictating exactly when that particular worker provides the services and how they provide the services, then that person is almost by definition going to be considered an employee, even if that person is working from their home and not an independent contractor. And what's the difference between an independent contractor and a worker in terms of taxation? Well, if that worker is an employee, then he or she has to have a number of things that you are doing for him. First of all, you have to withhold Medicare and Medicaid taxes. You have to withhold and pay unemployment taxes on his or her wages, and you have to also make sure that income taxes are withheld. So these are very important distinctions to make. And again, if you don't do those and the worker is in fact a employee and not an independent contractor, and if you mislabel them, what could happen? Well, in fact, you can be held liable for back taxes that have not been withheld. And so it's a very important distinction that needs to be understood. And we have the lawyers such as Kelly Burchell to assist you, making sure that you have classified your workers in a correct manner. So let me give you an example and see if you can guess whether this person is an employee or an independent contractor. So this is an example of Donna Lee. She's a salesperson employed full-time by Blue.com, an online car seller. And so she works 6 days out of the week and is on duty manning Blue.com's online showroom. She and her work is managed by a team of managers, and she makes kind of appraisals based upon trade-ins of cars that are based on a metrics that's established by the management team. In addition, she only requires a minimal amount of assistance in closing her sales, and she is offered prizes and bonuses along with a commission that she gets as a result of her pay or as a result of her work. And in addition, Blue.com also pays the cost of her health insurance and group term life insurance. So the question is she an employee or an independent contractor? Now, some may think, hey, she's working from home, so she may be an independent contractor. Seems like she has a little bit of independence, but in fact, she is an employee. Key issue is to focus on whether or not her work in terms of time and also the exact work that she's doing is being kind of supervised, as opposed to you, for example, meeting with a worker, basically giving them the goals for the week, and then giving them the deadlines for when they should meet the goals, and them then coming back and hitting those goals, as opposed to them, let's say, having a fixed time when they work, when they are supposed to be on the job, and when they're to leave the job. Again, managing, again, the exact manner in which they also accomplish that particular job. So those are the key things for you to be on the lookout for. So that's our meat and potatoes for today. Now let's get into some of the exciting elements of our new segment, and that is the FAQ, or the legal FAQs relating to Silicon Valley. In the episode 1, there's an interesting kind of discussion, or even a negotiation, if you will, that has taken place between the co-founder of the startup that is the focus of the show, Pied Piper, which is led by Richard Hendricks, and his employer of the company that is called Huli, which some suppose is a mock of perhaps Google or Apple or another one of the big titans of Silicon Valley. The question that is coming out of this conversation stems from an offer that Gavin Belson, the CEO of Huli, gives to Richard to buy his very hot compression algorithm embedded in his app. And so he offers Richard, again, initially $300,000 and a promotion within his company to basically acquire the app. When he offers that, a fictional venture capitalist named Peter Gregory comes in and says, hey, Richard, I'll give you, instead of $300,000 to buy your entire app, I'll give you $300,000 to buy only 10% of your app. And so in exchange, so what he's done is then increased the valuation of the app by how much? What's the new valuation? The new valuation, again, 10% of $300,000, or $300,000 is 10% of $3 million. So again, $3 million is the valuation. Again, the Huli founder knows exactly that. So he says, I tell you what, well, I'll give you $3 million for it right now for the entire company. Again, Richard say, oh, $3 million, that's a lot of money. But again, Gregory points out, hey, Richard, he's going to basically be owning all of your company. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I will give you, instead of $300,000 for 10%, I'll actually increase your valuation from $3 million to $10 million by giving you $200,000 for 5%. Richard thinks, oh, what is that? He's actually going down. But then again, the Peter Gregory character, which some believe is either Peter Thiel, which is a very wealthy venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, or Paul Graham, who is the founder of Y Combinator, a very hot incubator and accelerator in Silicon Valley. So again, those are the kind of really interesting kind of combinations that are taking place in this discussion. And in order to really make the best decision, you really need to know the mechanics of venture financing and understanding the whole issue of dilution and what you as an owner want to avoid. Because again, there's several series of funding that you may find yourself having to go through before you get to become $1 billion company. And if you give up all the equity in your company before that time, you will not reach the 3 commas club that is discussed in the movie. So again, now we want to again make a special tribute to Congressman John Conyers, who's someone I know personally, helped me by nominating me to the United States Air Force Academy, a wonderful member of Congress, did a lot of work in Congress, and we're going to give you a clip of a tribute that you should enjoy, and let us again recognize many of the great works by African American legal pioneers like Congressman Conyers during this month of Black History.
January 15th will be declared a public legal holiday in honor of the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. It was one line.
One line, that's all it was. That's all it took.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. So then you started looking for support. Where did you find it?
In the Black Caucus. There were only a handful of us then, but they all signed on.
Was there any support on the bill from white legislators?
Oh yes. Bella Abzug, the late William Fitzryan from New York, Pete Stark, the California group. We did have interracial support for the bill. We were determined that this bill would become law.
We got to make sure that we tell our own history.
Tell me.
And that history has to be taught and passed along.
That's right.
John Conyers is a history maker.
That's right.
John Conyers is a legend. John Conyers is a hero.
That's right.
It's our job to lift up our hero and make sure that the world knows of the great work that he did, and but for him, there would not be any of us. John Conyers, I love the man. He always remembered who he was,
That's right.
where he came from,
That's right.
and who helped get him there.
That's right.
This is Talib Kareem with Abe Legal, encouraging you to check out our app, especially if you're a small business owner or a nonprofit leader, and give us your feedback on both the show, the topics that you might want to see discussed, and any other question that you might have pertaining to the law. We're here for you 24 hours a day, and we look forward to coming back and discussing more legal topics in our next podcast. Till then, have a wonderful day.